Today, in the media conference with LAL GOEL, which is brought to you by V4 News, Caru News, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarocar News, Bharat Post News, Gyan, and Organ Donation India Foundation. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And today's topic is not only current, but very burning topic. And the topic is PhD not mandatory for teaching. But before I will go on the main topic, I would like to inform you that today world is celebrating World Consumer Rights Day. Every year, 15th March is celebrated as the World Consumer Rights Day. World Consumer Rights Day was inspired by President John F. Kennedy, who sent a special message to the US Congress on 15th March 1962, in which he formally addressed the issue of consumer rights. He was the first world leader to do so. The consumer movement first marked that date in 1983 and now uses the day every year to mobilize action on important issues and campaigns. This day signifies celebration and solidarity in the international consumer movement, demanding that consumer rights are to be respected and protected. The event also gives a chance to protest against the market abuses and social injustices which undermine those rights. Each year, World Consumer Rights Day adopts a theme to highlight. This year, the theme promoted is Fair Digital Finance. Media conference with LAL GOEL hopes that consumer rights will always be respected and protected. Now, coming to our main topic, PhD not mandatory for teaching. PhD used to be a mandatory requirement to teach in many central universities. But gone are those days. In a major move, University Grants Commission, UGC, has decided to do away with the old mandatory PhD requirement in order to have more industry experts as teachers in universities. As per reports, UGC is planning to create new positions for such teachers. They will likely be appointed as professors of practice and associate professors of practice. While appointing such professors, their industry experience would be considered. The move is being taken to allow teachers who do not have PhD degree to provide hands-on training to the students and share their knowledge. The decision to appoint for the new positions also aims to provide the opportunity to many experts who want to teach in universities but can't as they have no PhD degree. Experts who have crossed the age of 60 may join as full or part-time faculty till then they turn 65. Now, to discuss this very, very important topic, PhD not mandatory for teaching, we have very elite, knowledgeable, those who are experts and those who already have PhDs, panelists are with us. And I would like to invite and introduce my first panelist guest, and he is Professor Dr. Pramod Pathak. Professor Dr. Pramod Pathak is a reputed international corporate trainer, public speaker, blogger, and columnist. He is the former professor and head of management studies, IIT Dhanbad. He is postgraduate in psychology and an MBA with PhD in stress management from Banaras Hindu University. He is a reputed management and psychological consultant and is the founder of Kaizen Mantra, a training and consulting organization. He has also founded the Goodness Movement that aims to spread positivity through writings and lectures. His columns are published in leading newspapers and periodicals, and his blogs are read globally. He was also on Faculty Institute of Management, BHU. Having guided some 30 PhDs successfully, he has written several books and over 100 research articles in reputed journals. As a global lead lecturer, he has delivered talks at various international seminars, conferences, and workshops in several countries. Welcome, Professor Dr. Pramod Pathak. Professor Pathak, you know, very recently,
thank you, sir.
Last week only, this topic it's become very hot because the news reports appeared which says now UGC wants to dispense with this PhD, which was mandatory earlier. And they want to give a lateral entry for those who are working in the industry and have some experience, and they will be appointed as a professor of practice or associate professor of practice. Now, you being yourself a former professor and head of the management studies, IIT Dhanbad. And you also know that today the standard of education in India, apart from few of the institutes of eminence, is going down, especially in North Indian colleges. Now, we would like to know from you whether this move from the UGC is good or bad. So PhD not mandatory for teaching. Professor Dr. Pramod Pathak, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. And of course, I greet all your viewers and the co-panelists who are there with me to deliberate on this topic. The first thing I would like to say is that qualifications and quality are two entirely different things. So when we introduced PhD as a mandatory requirement for university teaching, the assumption behind that requirement was exactly this, that anybody who is a PhD will make a better teacher than one who is not a PhD. So this assumption in itself is rather faulty. I'll tell you one thing. When I was doing my post-graduation, and in two departments, psychology department of BHU and then subsequently in the management department of BHU, a renowned institution, globally known, and of course, one of the best in the country. I was taught by several professors. Many of them were PhDs. Some of them were non-PhDs. Those days, the mandatory requirement was not there. And I would like to share, Mr. Goel, that some of the best professors I encountered were non-PhDs. So this assumption that qualifications and quality are, quality comes from qualifications. This assumption is rather faulty. C.V. Raman, the first Asian and Indian to get a Nobel Prize, was a non-PhD. So the point is not that. The point is that it is the quality that is important. And look at the kind of PhDs we are producing. In 2011, a very reputable journal, Nature, globally reputable journal, Nature brought out an article, The PhD Factory. 2011, April 2011 issue. It can be referred to. And in that article, PhD as a quality giving degree for research and teaching was threadbare discussed. And needless to say, the finding was that it is not only because of the PhD, but rather it is because of the research orientation, because of the academic commitment, and because of the rigors of the scholar that a good professor is made. So that way, I think what the government has decided, or the UGC has decided, to introduce this new, what we call, rather remove the existing statutory requirement of a PhD mandatory for a college teacher. I think it is a welcome move. It will maybe give opportunities to other experienced people who have the ability, who have the experience, but who are not able to enter because of the mandatory or statutory requirement. I'll tell you one more thing. Institutions like ours, we do in fact have a provision to hire industry experts as professors of practice. They are already doing it. So UGC has come later on. And what we find is that this adds to the value of teaching. This adds to the value of university degree. So what the UGC has decided is, I think, taking a cue from what we were doing, IITs were doing, IIMs were doing. And it was found that some of the very renowned industry experts were able to deliver some very useful lessons to the students and scholars. Now, the second thing, I am myself a PhD, and I had to spend some 7 years to complete my PhD. And it was a rigorous exercise, definitely. But look at the kind of PhDs we are producing these days. That is the whole tragedy. That the stamp doesn't matter. In fact, though I am a PhD, I think, of some 30 years back, and professor for the last 35 years, I still receive emails from some quarter or the other that we will help you in getting a PhD. So it is on a turnkey basis. There are certain consultancies or so-called experts who are offering a PhD for some, financial consideration. Now look at the scenario, and there are, in fact, making PhD a mandatory requirement, has created a mad scramble for PhD, and many people are, joining PhD courses just to ensure that they get a job in the university. Now the question is that how they are going to acquire this degree. We go on, increasing what we call the stipulations. We go on, raising the bar. But then they find some way or the other to beat the process. So it's not about PhD being the sole criterion of a good professor. Teaching is a skill also. And in fact, as per the UGC and even like Mittal Saab is there in AICT, the basic thing is that you need certain basic skills. In fact, look at the PhDs. Some of them cannot even talk for 15 minutes. No, I'll tell you a very interesting thing. I was invited by the government of Fiji to deliver a talk on managerial implications of Ramayana. So people from 8 countries were there. That was in 2016. And interestingly, I was the only professor. Others were all Ramayana scholars and people with other diverse qualifications and experiences. So all of them, when people from Australia, people from New Zealand, people from Trinidad, Tobago, people from Malaysia, and things like that. So 8 countries. Everyone who would come to speak would introduce himself that I am so and so, coming from the business of this. Now I was wondering what should be my business. So when I went to the stage to talk about myself, I started by saying that I am so and so, and I teach there, and I come from the business of talking. And I'll tell you, the house was in raptures. So in fact, the reality is that for teaching, you need very effective communication skills. Now, there is a rider. These communication skills will not come without knowledge, without content. So naturally, if you want to be a good professor, you need to develop content continuously. And what is happening is that in the case of PhDs, most PhDs, once they acquire the PhD, they stop developing themselves. It is something like the IAS. We take one examination and then we think that they are good for all times to come. And look what has happened. So the same thing applies there. So it's not about the PhD. It's about the continuous upgradation and continuous upliftment of the individual and continuous acquisition of knowledge. Similarly, for research, as I gave the name of C.V. Raman, research is a mindset. Now look at the quality and the topics that they are coming up with in PhD. In fact, I guided 30 PhDs. And I know how difficult it was for me to guide them because many of them did not deserve. And the problem is that if you turn them out, there'll be a big ruckus, there'll be a big issue, right? From UGC to AICT to Ministry of HRD and things like that. So naturally, in fact, half the time we had to do half the work to ensure that these PhDs, the student who is enrolled gets the PhD. So these are the issues involved. So I think rather than going for just this, that a PhD makes a good teacher, I think we should go for the other side of it, that it is the knowledge, and look at the kind of what we call studies we do in a PhD. Now, in PhD, we ask the scholars to look for one topic and one focused area of that topic. So how can a person who has known more about just one small specific aspect of a discipline can become an excellent teacher. So the assumption is wrong. My contention is that it's the assumption that is wrong. PhDs may be good, I don't contest that. But it's not necessary that every PhD is good. Similarly, people who are non-PhDs, they may be equally good or rather better. In fact, I found them, as far as my experience is concerned. I did my MBA, I told you, in 1980. And I found that the best professor who taught us was a professor who was a non-PhD. And that is not my, only experience. In fact, even today when I talk to my old juniors and my old friends, they say that, yes, he was the best. Similarly, I found in psychology. So the point is that by, just making PhD mandatory, we were, trying to block entry of some very good people in the educational institutions. And the other thing is that we have been doing it in technology and engineering colleges. We have been doing it. And we found that they add value. So that way, I think it's a good experiment by the UGC, and it is worth trying. Maybe if we don't agree, I think we can change that. And the other thing, and more important, is that there was a time when PhD was not mandatory. There was a time when PhD was not mandatory. And whatever we have learned, I think, I'm not, proud to say that, but yes, I admit that we have been taught better. We have been taught better. So teaching is a different thing. So in fact, for a good university teacher, you need to have someone with excellent teaching and communication skills, orientation for asking the right question, orientation or hunger or that fire for more and more knowledge, keeping abreast with whatever is going on around, and finally go for some very high quality publications. But that also, there is a catch. These days, publications also has become a big racket. That, of course, again, Mittal Saab will agree with me. That, there are shops. There are shops and different gradings and different, what we call agencies. So marketers are doing this job. And what is happening? UGC is making mandatory. You have to publish 2 articles in this, 4 articles in that. Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. Because many of those articles are published by paying an amount. And in fact, even the so-called, what we call top academic journals, so-called, I reiterate, so-called top academic journals, you know what they do? They will send mails to you that we'll publish your article, open access journal, this, that. And then a publication or a paper processing charge is there. And it runs into, you don't know how many dollars. And I'll give you one very example. Of course, I'll not name the journal because that won't be proper. But there is a world's most reputable journal in medicine, which created quite a confusion in the Corona period.
Lancet. I will give you the name, Lancet.
And they charge $5,000 as publication fee. So anyone who doesn't have $5,000 will not be able to get published. I mean, these are the things. So, I mean, I don't say that everything that is published is, trash. But then everything that is published is also not gold. So we have to go by case basis. And assumptions that qualifications and quality are one and the same is faulty. So we need to have a relook at this whole assumption. And maybe what I find is that someday with the universities allowing people with experience from industry to teach will be a better bet. It reminds me of a very old anecdote. There was a very interesting case. In fact, I was told by somebody, I was not the person who was there. I was told by one of my professors that, there's so much of mad scramble about PhD. But when I was in the interview board of a college, the chairman of the college was also there. So the chairman said that I want a good teacher. And I said, what are the, he said that he asked what are the qualifications. So he said that a consistently good academic record. That was what was the usual advertisement. Consistently good academic record. That means second division and above, 55% and above. For the UGC and AICT also at one time. Consistently good academic record. PhD preferred. That is how the advertisement read. So the professor told me that a guy came, he was a PhD, and people interviewed them. They did not find him suitable. Another guy came, he was a non-PhD, and people did not find him, did not find him that he had a PhD. So they thought that the person with a higher qualification should be better. And then the third fellow came, who had some publications and knowledge, and he performed well in the interview board. So when after the interviews were over, they were discussing as to who to be selected. The chairman, was told by one of the experts, this professor, that look here, this fellow is a PhD, you may go for his selection. The chairman said, look here, Professor Saab, I have been the chairman of this college for so many years, and I find that this fellow is useless. PhD or no PhD. So he is only a PhD. What else? So that was the expression, only a PhD. Professor said, but he is not even a PhD. Well, no, that does not make the difference. So between only a PhD and not even a PhD, the person who was not even a PhD was given preference because he had substance and he could deliver that substance. So the most important qualification for a teacher, the most important qualification of a teacher is his ability to communicate with the students effectively so that they understand what is taught. That's number one. And of course, the second thing is his research orientation so that he can contribute to the research output. So even for that, you don't need a PhD. Because many PhDs, I look at the quality of PhDs whom I have interviewed and found that they are useless. There are some good PhDs, but so the assumption is wrong. That is why I said that in sum and substance, there's just one assumption which is wrong. And that is qualifications and quality are one and the same. They are two different things, entirely different things. And it is the quality that has to be emphasized. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Dr. Pramod Pathak, for giving your views. And Professor Dr. Pramod Pathak totally advocating about this particular thing that PhD not mandatory for the teaching. He says the PhD, the quality of PhD in India is not that good. So why we are insisting for PhD earlier, which was mandatory. And he has given plenty of examples, and he says the non-PhD fellows, although Professor Pathak, when he did his MBA, at that time, even a MBA or a ordinary MA, BA, they are more qualified. We know that when we were a child, our grandparents or my grandmother, hardly 8th pass, is knowing more than what we know today. So it's not the question of this, but Professor Pathak very clearly says that this is a good move because PhD, the quality of PhD, the research, he has put the allegations on almost everyone who is responsible for granting the PhDs, whether it's a government bodies, those who are controlling this PhD courses, or the universities, or the publication houses who are publishing their researches, according to Professor Pathak, because many places they are just doing because they want that a person should be given PhD. So instead of controlling or catching the thief, if we will allow others to come in the same thing, which I am going to come and ask this difficult question, some questions to him in the next round. But what he says is that the quality is important than the quantity. So he says the quality, we will get someone who is having experience in the industry and who is non-PhD can also be a good teacher. So if he is a good communicating person. Thank you very much, Professor Pathak, for giving your very, very strong views for this particular thing. Now, thank you. Now I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and he's Professor Dr. Alok Prakash Mittal. Professor Mittal has done his B honors in 1978 from Gorakhpur, ME from University of Roorkee in 1980, PhD in Power Electronics from IIT Delhi in 1991, worked as Dean from 2003 to 2016, worked as member of NBA Expert Committee for Accreditation of about 80 institutes, worked as member of Expert Committee for Department of Technical Education, Government of Haryana for allotting the courses of computer science to different technical institutions, worked as member of expert committee for University Grants Commission. He was General Chair IEEE, India International Conference on Power Electronics 2010, Senior Member IEEE USA, Fellow Institute of Engineers, Fellow IETE, Life Member ISTE, Life Member System Society of India. He was Member Secretary AICTE from 2016 to 2019. Now he is Director of NSUT West Campus. His more than 65 articles published in journals and has over 60 conferences, presentations. Welcome, Professor Dr. 𝐂𝐀𝐑𝐔 Mittal on our show. Professor Mittal, you are basically on the other side. You are from the administrative side. You have been a member, secretary of AICT and expert committee member, etc., etc. And you were the dean also. What Professor Pathak, you have heard Professor Pathak, he was very clear. He says in many cases the PhD's condition, or the, you can say the PhD's standard in India is very, very low. So according to him, if that is the case, then why not allow others who are non-PhD? Then we can at least have some quality education, because the PhDs, but definitely you are from the other side. You are supposed to control all the universities or those technical institutes from AICT. So we would like to know your views on this recent move of UGC, PhD not mandatory for teaching. Professor Dr. 𝐂𝐀𝐑𝐔 Mittal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. It is really nice to be with all of you. All the professors present and all the viewers, it is really good to be with all of you today. In fact, the topic is a very, very good topic you have taken. Whether PhD should not be mandatory. First of all, I will tell you why PhD was made mandatory. Because about 30 years back, PhD was not mandatory. But by UGC and AICT, it was made mandatory because it is thought that doing PhD, you get more analytical, you become more analytical, and analytical being a part of teaching. If you are better analytical person, if you are teaching will be certainly better. So that was the consideration which was there for making PhD mandatory about 30 years back. Then, of course, as has been rightly told by Dr. Pathak, these days, many PhDs are being, I would say, they have been purchased. The PhDs are being purchased these days. So those kind of PhDs certainly will not be good for the society, because they are, by some faulty means, they have done PhD. So I would say that real PhD, if you are real PhD, you are more analytical, you know more about the system, you know more about the subject, and certainly you may be a better teacher. But at the same time, if you are PhD from a faulty process, faulty system, then certainly that will be not be good for the system. So those things have to be taken into consideration. I would say AICT in 2018, we have made about 20% seats in the teaching from industry. In the 2018 modifications for qualifications, etc., we have said that 20% non-PhD may be there, or people from industry may be there, whether they are PhD or not. And so that the better interaction with the industry institute interaction may also become better. That was one of the main parameters in that because many people said that teaching and industry are two separate things. So industry institute interaction should also be encouraged. So that talk I am listening for last about 40 years. Since when I was a student at that time, also similar talks were there. And today also, because that in industry institute interaction need to be more powerful, better oriented. So I would certainly say that if you have done PhD from a good institutions, from good people, certainly PhD is a very, very good thing for teaching, because you get more analytical, you got better understanding about the subject, you are more deep into the subject, and certainly that will help in teaching. That certainly help in teaching. But at the same time, there are certain industry experts who are non-PhD, but they have very good experience of industry. They have so their knowledge should also be taken care of. So that's why in 2018, we have done from AICT side that 20% seats in the teaching should be from the industry orientation. We have not mentioned whether they should be PhD or not at the time. We have not mentioned that parameter, whether they should be PhD or not. But we have said that it should be more from the industry orientation. So I would say that both the things, PhD and non-PhD, there you will get very good knowledge from non-PhD industrial experts also. And they should be there, they should be taken into consideration while you are considering teaching positions. So I would welcome this move by the UGC that PhD should not be mandatory, but at the same time, it should not be that more without non-PhD should come into teaching. So that should be some limit should be there, that as we have put in at that time in 2018, that 20% from industry may be there. So that kind of things, 20% or 25% or 30% may be there from who are non-PhD. Maximum limit may be fixed for that, so that more PhD person, and then you can, of course, when you are selecting a person for teaching positions, you must take into consideration from where he has done the PhD and how he has achieved his PhD. So those kind of consideration, of course, as have been rightly said by Dr. Pathak, that many institutions are there, many consultancies are there who are taking, who are helping to procure PhD. So those kind of systems should be avoided. Of course, it is very difficult in the society. It is very, because there are many types of colleges, many types of considerations in selecting the persons. So it is difficult things, but at the same time, I would say that non-PhD should also be encouraged, but not much. There should be some limit on that. That is my consideration. That of course, in PhD, my main assumption is that in the PhD, when you are doing your PhD, you get more deep involved in the subject. You get more analytical understanding and analysis, which is an essential part of teaching. Analysis is an essential part of teaching. So that's why that is what the consideration was when PhD was made mandatory. But at the same time, as Dr. Pathak has said, that the PhD procured from some faulty means should not be encouraged. So it is not. So if you make PhD mandatory, then those good PhDs are not available. Those many good PhDs may not be available, as the number of institutions have been very high. So more teaching positions are there. So good PhDs of that level may not be available. So we should be open for non-PhDs also, industrial experience also, because industrial experience is also essential for teaching. So we would say that, I would say that some limitations may be there, that this many non-PhDs may be included, may be there, rather than making just that PhD is not mandatory. So PhD may be made non-mandatory, but at the same time, it is not. It should be made mandatory for at least a minimum level, minimum number of PhDs should be there in an institution. So I would say that PhD from good institutions certainly make you a better teacher. But at the same time, it is not that PhD make you a better teacher. I have seen some people in my organizations also. There are some people who are PhD from good institutions, but they are very good researchers, but they are not good teachers. So that teaching ability, communicating ability is also one of the essential part of teaching. So that should also be taken care of. So only PhD, we should not consider that only PhD is mandatory. We have to see that the communication skill, the teaching methodology of the person when we are selecting them. So I would say PhD is good in institutions, but at the same time, industrial people are also welcomed in the institutions. Industrial experience or field experience is also good. So I would say PhD should not be made mandatory, but at the same time, some minimum number should be made in the institutions that this much PhDs must be there, or about 30% or 35% or 40% may be non-PhD. So those kind of consideration must be there. That is my point of view of getting into it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Alok Mittal, for giving your views. And Professor Mittal very clearly says that the PhD is very good because it is an analytical thing. It gives you more analytical, so your teaching skills improves because of the if somebody has done PhD, but he also put a rider, the PhD has to be done from a good institution and with fair means, not by using unfair means. But he says that as far as the industry's experts are concerned, there is a welcome move, which he says when he was in the AICT as a member secretary, he only got it to means with the consent of the board. They passed some thing that 20% people should be inducted from the industry and on the technical institutions as a teacher. But he says that if we are opening it for the non-PhD fellows, there should be upper limit like 20 or 30%, not more than that. And we should also emphasize for good quality PhD. When we are appointing a teacher, we must insist and get a good quality, whether what the PhD has done, whether it's a fair means or not. Although Professor Mittal belongs to from the other side, but still he's saying that one should, who is going to check if the person who is supposed to check, they can't check, then how the general public or all the institutions can check whether the PhD is good or bad? And we have not heard till now, I can't remember, but that how many raids have been conducted on those institutions which are giving such type of PhDs in India. This is also a very important question. Then we are seeing everywhere the corruption is there, wherever the police or the ED or the IT and all the government CBI is raiding. Why not some raids are taking place for giving these types of PhDs which they are procuring? But thank you very much, Professor Mittal, for making your point, which is very, very clearly taken. And we would like to come to you next when in the next round when we'll ask the question. Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and she is Dr. Rukhsana Hassan. Dr. Rukhsana Hassan is a renowned psychologist, trainer, coach, motivational speaker, a special educator for early childhood education and development, a specialized counselor for the drug abusers and alcoholic with an experience of 28 years in rehabilitation center. She holds a PhD in social work and humanity from USA. She is postgraduate in Master of Arts from Mysore University, postgraduate in diabetic health educator from St. John's, Bangalore, and postgraduate in human rights, New Delhi. Her second PhD from Mother Teresa University in counseling psychology. Presently, she is doing a third PhD in applied science from Rajasthan University. One side we are talking about PhD, one PhD, she is doing three PhDs. Third PhD she is in doing now. She completed her research in a project about CSW in Bangalore city under Women and Child Development Government of Karnataka. She has done research about adaptive personality, child's development psychology, CDP. It was done with the Children of Observation Home Boys Government of Karnataka. For the outstanding service towards humanity, she was awarded Indira Priyadarshini Award. She is the nominee of Kittur Rani Chennamma Government of Karnataka as the best social worker. She was awarded by Art Mantram Bangalore for Go Green Bangalore. She won Women's Achievers Award of N.A. Harris Foundation, Bangalore. She has presented her papers at many international conferences at Turkey, Istanbul, University and Egypt, trained teachers in Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, Pune and all over Karnataka. She was the counselor in charge of Karnataka State Counseling Center as an advisor for the Karnataka State Minority Commission 2011-2012 and also has designed pilot project for the Government of India and Government of Karnataka. She is the founder chairperson of the first rehabilitation center. She is the first minority woman in India to have started such a unique, challenging program. She designed mobile computer and training units with the help of Ministry of Labor, which benefits for the minority girls who are denied education for the various reasons. Her title is a Smiley Girl of the Town. She builds a new town in the darkest dusk, just with a positive smile, which we can even see today with her positive smile. She is there. Welcome, Dr. Rukhsana Hasan on our show. Dr. Rukhsana Hasan, we are talking about the non-PhDs teachers, and you are doing the third PhD. And you have heard what Professor Pathak and Professor Mittal said. Both of this view that this is a welcome move from the UGC, but they says that if the PhD is obtained by fair means, then it is most welcome. But if the PhD is PhD is obtained with a unfair means, then this move is good. Now you have done, as I mentioned in your profile, it is written you have already done 2 PhDs and third is in progress, and you are educating the teachers in different parts of India, along with your social work. We would like to know your views on PhD not mandatory for teaching. Dr. Rukhsana Hasan, please.
Very good morning to you, sir, and a very good morning to all the viewers of media conference with LAL GOEL. My good morning to Dr. Pramod and Alok sir, my co-panelist. It's definitely a very good discussion what we all are having. To begin with, I will just say that every woman is a cook, but if I have to be a chef, I have to have a degree. So this is the thing what I would like to start. I would like to start with one of the applications what I had got. I had opened that application for a security manager in our organization, and I would not like to say the name of that person who had applied, but I had appointed him. He had completed his MA LLB, and then he was practicing, then he did his research and he was a doctor. But in his application, he had not written anything like that. He just wrote, I want to apply for this. The moment he applied and when he came, I took his interview. When I saw his credential, I was shocked. As Dr. Pramod rightly said, it is not important, what is the kind of degree what we have, the kind of paper what says that you are so-and-so, you are a doctor, you are an engineer. That is not the important part. How informative are you about that related subject? That is more important than calling yourself so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. When I had submitted my first research, when I first researched on women and child development, I wanted to give an alternative for commercial sex workers to commercial skilled workers. That is where I had approached the Ministry of Labor and I had told, sir, CSW versus CSW. So everybody were shocked. There were so many PhD holders, there were so many IAS officers, there were so many other administration. Ma'am, what is the CSW and CSW versus CSW? It's very easy for us to say without any research to name and label one thing. But if I have to bring in solution, definitely it will take a lot of research in the sun, in the rain, in the wind, in the shade, in the dark, in the light. Research on any subject is just not like that. Just to say that, I am a doctor of philosophy, it is not so easy. But today, am I informative about the particular subject what I am talking? If it is CSW, what is the other correlated, your left side and the back and front is. So that is more important for any of us. Now, coming back to the point of teaching and teaching the students. Again, here I would like to say, whether you are a PhD holder or whether you are a non-PhD holder, as Sir rightly said that C.V. Raman was not an PhD holder. But what is the thing, what is happening? In spite of I being a PhD holder, I may not even know. I may have just, today, as they said, more than purchasing the PhDs, it is copy-paste. You may not even know on page number 9 what you have written. You may not even know according to the index what you have given, because it is just a matter of copy and paste. But whereas when we are doing a PhD, we go into the field, we bow down to the research, we see what is the exact thing, only then we come up with this. So if a teacher, if a professor, especially teaching in the professor, if you have to be that, at least there should be some benchmark. There should be some benchmark to say that, yes, if you are a non-PhD, what is it? If it is that, if this is the law, and what is the other law for it? So it shouldn't become, it shouldn't just become, okay, I'm a non-PhD and I can go and teach. So if it is fair and unfair, how fair is it? If it is unfair, how unfair is it?
Yeah, please go ahead.
How unfair is it? So this fair and unfair game is there in every field, but please don't put it in the educational field. The moment you make the educational field corrupt, the doctors are corrupt. If a doctor is corrupt, then you can't have a proper surgery. If you don't have a proper surgery, definitely there are many deaths unreasonably. So in case if you're teaching somebody, what is it what you're teaching? All the teachers whom I take classes, forget about the professor. I'll just tell you, MSc PhD. I said, please write about yourself in 10 lines. She's unable to do. She doesn't know where an adjective should be used and where a noun should be used. So this is the quality of education what we are giving. A 10th standard student doesn't know what is a noun. So who is responsible? Having such kind of crucial points and having such kind of research, where do we correct it? How do we correct it? And how do we implement? Now, the kind of experience what Dr. Pramod Patak is having, I think in today's generation, even 30% of that, it is impossible. An engineer is becoming a psychologist. I said, what's your qualification? Okay, I am BE engineer. And what are you? I'm training the teachers. Training the teachers is about what? About the machines? No, about the human psychology, about the human behavior, about the human science. I said, no, I had a lot of experience. What experience? Just because I know to make dal, I can't present as a dal makhani. There is a lot of difference between a housewife cooking and a chef cooking. The housewife presenting and a chef presenting. This is a classical example what I can give. In case if I'm in a PhD student, if I'm a PhD holder, what is my outcome? When somebody asks me, what is rehabilitation? Rehabilitation is this, rehabilitation is no, be specific. What is your abstract? What is the first word you started? And how did you co-connect it? What are your keywords? How did you submit? Who was your guide? What was your researcher tool? All this is very important. Not necessary that you should be labeled with a PhD. Don't worry about the PhD, but do a research in the particular thing, what you have done. Just because you an MCOM and then you do some thing, you can't become a professor. Because today's child is not interested to listen to what is written in the books, what is written in the textbook. They want to listen something what has been a curiosity and anxiety in their mind. So that is more important than, just whatever I have learned in my MCOM, I can't go and teach. Whatever I have learned in my MSc, I can't go and teach. So according to me, what I feel, PhD or non-PhD is not important. For me, the importance is the information what you have about the subject And the chapter what you're going to teach, it is more important than any other page. I always tell my teachers, you have started your career now, you're 25, by 30, you can submit your research paper. How? She is in the field, she is touching the student. She has a kind of so much of material, so much of data, so much of case histories, so much of things, what she's been dealing day one and day two, her experience, what she has found. Put it in a kind of nutshell and just apply for it. This is what I said. Not that you just copy paste and do things. It is of no use. Purchasing of the PhDs, again, nobody is going to employ you. So we shouldn't be worried about that. The importance of this is, if I'm a PhD holder in a particular subject, am I teaching the same subject to the students who are going to become the next future generation? So that is more important for us to concentrate. And before we make any law, sitting in an AC room, we can't make any law. We have to get to the ground realities, touch the root and see what is the outcome of the branches and which flower, which color is coming out. So fair and unfair is not a game. Fair and unfair is there in every field, every life, every individual, every organization. So let us not talk about it. That's a huge subject to be argued or to be discussed. So in case it is a teaching, if a teacher fails in delivering what he or she should, that is the biggest disaster what you are going to give back to the society. If you are not going to teach, because I have been working for such a long time with the drug addicts and with the alcoholics, with the commercial sex workers, with the rapists, with the victims of rape and all this. The only one thing what I have found in my research and why I'm doing my early childhood development research is, where exactly should the real tuning should take place. The tuning, we are not tuned. The real tuning is the first teacher who's a mother and the second teacher who will be with you for a long time is your teacher. As a mother, my child might not listen to me, but as a student, if I teach the student 2 + 2 is 5, that child will learn that 2 + 2 is 5. So this is the influence of a teacher. Every teacher, according to me, should be a researcher. Only if you're particular in your thing, only then you can be a teacher. Only then you're teaching. Please don't take teaching as a choice. This is not a choice because you don't have any other. Most of the teachers are like, no, ma'am, I am going to get married after 3 years. So as in time pass, I have taken teaching. That shouldn't be the thing. That is the reality of today's thing. And why? No, ma'am, in other schools, they are not paying me well. So I joined after my BA, I am teaching English. What is BA and what is English? So these are the many things what we have to say before we have any kind of benchmarks for this fair and unfair kind of teaching, what it is, who is a professor, who is a doctor, who is a teacher, who is a lecturer, who is an assistant teacher, who is a shadow teacher. There are so many varieties what we have to understand and make a law with the people with experience of Pramod sir and Alok sir. These are the kind of people who should be in the committee to say that, yes, in the first year, this is my thing, and the last year, this is my thing. There is a lot of thing, from the first year to the last year, it's a huge journey. Not just by sitting, because I'm an IAS officer, I just can't sit and think. Because I'm a minister, I can't just make a work order, I can't make new laws. So this is where we are failing. This is where the disasters are happening. For a small thing, we take an adjective, and then we have too many things. Okay. Please don't go on the adjectives, go on the verbs. Thank you for this opportunity, LAL GOEL sir. And it was wonderful being co-panelist with Pramod sir and Alok sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rukhsana Hassan, for giving your views. And Dr. Rukhsana Hassan has given a different views, not in line with the Professor Pathak or Professor Mittal, because what she says is, it's a very specialized thing for teaching. And why we are mixing up with those who are not having any experience. And one has to have experience. Yes, we must give more stringent things for the awarding when awarding the PhDs, but research is must. Without research, we cannot have someone who can teach the students. After all, this is a future, and the whatsoever the teacher influence, according to her, if the teacher will teach 2 + 2 is 5, then it will be 5 for the student. So the teacher has to be perfect. Otherwise, it will be a disaster for the country. And she has given lots of examples how the people who are coming, and if they don't have that research background, what is the condition. Thank you very much, Dr. Rukhsana Hassan, for giving your views. Now I would like to ask the question to Professor Pathak. Professor Pathak, because we will talk in the next round, not this round, about the about those who are non-PhDs. But right now we are talking about the PhDs. Why not? Like in other countries, they have that once you have done postgraduate, before joining PhD, you should have some work experience. If anyone wants to be a teacher, he or she should be first teaching the primary school or the secondary school for certain years, and then they will be allowed to go for the research, do the PhD, and then they should be upgraded to the colleges. Instead, that they will go directly to the colleges after obtaining the PhD. So the reservation which you are saying is that PhD is for sale and whatnot, but at least they should have some practical experience, which I will tell you, like in medical field in UK, they first, if you want to do the MRCP, first you become a GP, the general practitioner. You have to work in all the fields for 3, 4 years, 5 years, then only you will get the MRCP, and afterwards again you have to certain thing, then only you will get the FRCP or MRCP or FRCS. So why not in India? We must make it compulsory that once you have done the postgraduate, take a break, 2 years or 3 years or 1 year, whatsoever the duration, teach in. If you want to be a teacher, you have to take an experience in primary or secondary school and then go for the research, complete the research, come back to the college or go to the college, degree colleges or where or not. What do you say about this, Professor Pathak?
What you're saying is not new. These things are already there, and then there were certain experiments with MPhil or postdoc, and they're already in practice. So that is not the issue. My emphasis was on something else. My emphasis was on the question that was being raised, that should we allow industry personnel to enter teaching, or should we bar them? So, I mean, that experience is also important. For instance, if you teach management, if you teach engineering, it is that experience which is more important. So teaching as an art, of course, is something else. But teaching that art with the experience, with the background, with the kind of experiential learning that you are getting is something else. So these things are already there. And I think sending postgraduates to school first and then going for a PhD, that of course is something like what we do in the B.Ed programs and M.Ed programs. So school teaching is something different and college teaching is something different. So that may not be feasible. In fact, maybe Mr. Mittal may be in the better position to tell us. But according to me, that may not be feasible. My point is entirely different. That, like Mr. Sahab also said, Rukhsana also, in fact, in a way, they all endorsed my views that generalizations are not proper. So that is the whole thing, that we generalize. Now I will tell you a very interesting scene from a Hindi film, Mazdoor, that sums up the whole thing. The film is that, in that film, Suresh Oberoi, the actor, is the industrialist, and Dilip Kumar is a laborer in that factory. So they are into textile manufacturing. And then sometime, by some fault in the machine, there's some technical hitch and the machine stops working. So everyone is trying, no one is able to succeed. So finally, Raj Babbar was an engineer. He was not working there. So from outside, he just enters that factory, trying to find a job. So he says that why the factory is not working. He says the industrialist says that there's something wrong with the machine. She said, can I take a chance? So Suresh Oberoi says, yes, go ahead. So Raj Babbar examines the machine very thoroughly. And after examining that machine, he points out at one place. And then he says that, give me a hammer. He takes that hammer and gives a strong blow there. And then he says, starts the machine now. The machine starts working. Then Suresh Oberoi asks him, what should be the consultancy fee? He says 1,000 rupees. Then Suresh Oberoi says that 1,000 rupees for one blow of a hammer? Raj Babbar says no. 1 rupee for that blow of a hammer, 999 rupees for telling where to hit that hammer. So that is what insight we are talking about. And developing that insight will come from rigorous thinking and research. See, research is a highly abused word these days. You don't go to the newspapers, every day you find 2 researches. One research says drinking wine is good for heart. The other says no, drinking wine is not good for heart. So now which one to believe? The same thing happened in Corona times, right from World Health Organization to Johns Hopkins to CDC and all, even our own ICMR. They all came with all sorts of contradictory findings. And one day you're saying something, the other day you're saying something else. Whether it was sponsored or not, that should be the question.
Okay.
So these are the issues that have to be debated.
Okay, thank you, Professor Pathak. Now my question goes to Professor Mittal. Professor Pathak says that like he has given examples, some expert, etc. You mean to say tomorrow a pharmaceutical company's MD, who is not a doctor or a medical representative, will be allowed after 60 years of his age to teach the medical students because he is having lots of experience about the medicine. So he can teach the doctors, MBBS or MD doctors, what to prescribe and what not to prescribe because he is the pharmaceutical company leader. He has full experience in the industry. You mean to say this, Professor Mittal, by inviting those industry people? Please unmute.
In fact, that is not the way. By inviting the industrial people, it is their understanding about the knowledge to be applied to industry, how that can be applied. So how industrial orientation can be, because they will be teaching the subject which university has already prescribed, the syllabus which university has already prescribed. So they will be teaching that. But in the teaching, what a normal teacher, the difference between a normal teacher and an industrialist who is coming to teach there will be that he will put his industrial experience behind that. In the solution, he will put how it should be sold. So there, whereas a normal teacher who don't have an industrial experience will say only the theory how to solve it. But an industrial person will say how it can be sold in a better way.
So, Professor Mittal, my supplementary question to you is that, yes, that is what I'm saying. The managing director or the medical representative who has worked in pharmaceutical company is having more knowledge which medicine is to be given when the diarrhea is there. While there was a theoretical knowledge with the MBBS people, he is having more knowledge. You give this much dose, the diarrhea will stop. If it's a tuberculosis, give these medicines because he knows he's dealing with so many doctors. So where is it means tomorrow, even a contractor, I will take it because you are in AICT dealing with the engineering side. If a railway contractor or a PWD contractor who is having experience of 30 or 40 years dealing with the things, tomorrow he will become the professor. He says, I know better than these engineers because I have constructed so many dams and the bridges and whatnot. I was the person who was doing this. Engineers were sitting in the air-conditioned tent in the room. So I must be allowed. What do you say about that?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that just the industrial knowledge without the basic understanding, without the basic understanding of the subject may not be perfect. And contractor will say the things about only the experience, but he is not knowing about the analytical behavior of the system. How the system will, so how much dose should be given, will be prescribed by the medical person, a doctor. But this the pharmacist only knows that this dose may be given for this exam. This.
So the question here is the same question if you require the research and the research is not there. Anyway, thank you, Professor Mittal. I will come back to you again. I require more clarification in this. Now my question goes to Dr. Rukhsana Hassan. Dr. Rukhsana Hassan, why we are talking about the PhDs, that PhD fellows are useless and non-PhD fellows are good? It means, and you rightly mentioned about the corruption. It means that instead of plugging that corruption, we are opening a floodgate. Okay, they are corrupt. Non-PhD fellows, those who are from industry, they are non-corrupt. While we know in India very well, these industries fellows are more corrupt than anyone else because they know the loopholes, what to do, how to bribe the government officers, what not, how to be close with the ruling party, get the sources done, bribe the money. Then my question to you is, it is going to open a floodgate for the corrupt pupil to become a professor, and then they will teach the unethical values to the students. What do you say about this, Dr. Rukhsana Hassan?
Thank you for a very valuable question. You have answered my question in your question itself. When you open up something new, you have to really see the existing system, what it was, and why the system was there, and why the system was born. And you are going to do something which a system is there, and you're bringing a new system. What is the research for it? As rightly said with my co-panelist, at the time of Corona, every day we used to see one new thing because there was no proper research and there was no authentication by any of the doctors or organizations. So this will be a very good example for any of these new things what we start. So one such thing is that, that even without a PhD, I can teach. As you rightly said, an M.Pharmacist who is there, he can't, perform any kind of surgery. To perform a surgery, you should be a doctor with that qualification. Just because I know all the medicine doesn't mean that I can perform a thing. So there are certain benchmarks where we have to follow and we have to implement that, yes, this is what it has to be. Without any benchmark, because of your power, because of your position, you make new laws, you make new things. It is just a disaster, nothing. And today, most of the youngsters are the victims of the disasters.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rukhsana Hassan. Now my question goes to Professor Pathak. Professor Pathak, just imagine the scenario. 60 years is the benchmark. They have suggested 60 years to 65. 60 years, those who are in any industry. Now who is going to analyze the industry leader? I can claim I am an industry leader. Mr. X will claim he is an industry leader. Everyone in India is an expert in industry whatsoever. Number one. Number two, if I am close to the ruling party, whichever, I am not talking about Congress, BJP, AAP or so and so. I will just say I want 5 years to be comfortable. Salary is in lakhs. Appoint me. Just give a call to the principal of the private college or the government college. They cannot say no because it's now the UGC mandate. They will have to take me in the quota. I will go there. The principal knows that I am from that reserved quota of industry. I am so close to that so and so minister, and I have come through the source. I will be given the task for just doing some PR for the college or the university, not proper teaching. So basically, you are parking the unemployed, those workers who are close to the ruling party in the education system, is spoiling the education system. As you already says that PhD standard is very low in India. You say corruption is there. Don't you think this will open a floodgate? And what will be our position in the other countries? Still today, what is our ranking in India? How many universities? Maximum universities are in India. More than 1,000 universities in the world. Maximum in a country. And how many are in top 200? So my question to you is, Professor Pathak, why you are allowing those who have no benchmark, as Dr. Rukhsana Hassan said, and those who have no analytical experience to come and teach the students and what will be the standard of teaching? Professor Pathak, please.
Goel Sahab, I think first thing which I should try to make clear is that UGC has never said that you replace PhD with the non-PhD. UGC is saying that we also allow them, people with industry experience, to be teachers. It has never said that you replace PhDs with non-PhDs. So that is one assumption which is not proper. Second thing, I'll come to your question about pharma guy. Now, the pharmacist knows the chemistry, but he doesn't know the physiology. Yes. So that difference is there. Therefore, the pharmacist cannot become a medical teacher because he only knows the chemical formula of the medicine and he maybe has some idea of which medicine works in which. But which medicine will act in which patient's case, that is what a doctor knows. So that is the difference. In fact, I'll tell you one very interesting example. In this amoebiasis sickness, when people suffering from amoebiasis, we usually give metronidazole, 400 into 3 for 5 days. So that means somewhere around 2000 mg for 5 days. Or yes, 6,000. Now what happens is that a pharma company came up with a new idea. They thought that people, because patient compliance is a wonderful, it's a very commonly felt problem in medical science. So patients forget taking medicine, they reduce the dose and all. So they came up with a new formula, secnidazole, that would contain the total mg, total strength, which was given in 5 days, metronidazole. And they said that these 2 tablets should be taken at one go. But there was findings later on that this secnidazole did not work in all cases. So they came to the conclusion that the individual differences are very important. Similarly, the pharma and the physiology. So he knows the chemistry, he doesn't know the physiology.
So my question to Professor Pathak is the same. Then you are talking of industry. Which other industry can teach? You mean to say tomorrow Mr. Adhar Poonawala or his father, who has who's making the vaccine, will be teaching in medical college?
No. But the point is that we are not stopping the selection mechanism. He will be examined for his fitness, whether he is suitable or not.
Who will examine?
The selection committee.
So the selection committee can also examine the PhD fellows. Then if you fail to examine the PhD fellow to take its standard, how you are going to examine the industry leader?
But selection committee has not failed to examine PhDs. Despite them, some spurious entry has been there. So that is a separate issue. We'll try to plug the loophole.
See, try to understand, Professor Pathak. There is a PhD fellow whom you could not select properly because you could not ask either proper questions or you have just selected, you want a PhD. But an industry fellow, when he is a leader in his field, he is having lots of resources, money, his pulls and pushes, he will be selected. You cannot say no to him. If Mr. Adhar Poonawala will appear in any of the top university and say medical, I will teach what is vaccine and what not. He will, yes, as I understand, you bring them as a guest lecturer, that is fine. You can invite them, but as a appointing as a full-fledged professor in a technical...
But UGC has only said that will allow also the people with industry. It has never said that we'll replace them.
So my question, the same question means you are allowing those persons who are close to the power in the center of the state just to get the free money from the colleges and the universities. Think of, I'm not talking in that way. Just think, once the central universities will be allowed, definitely in due course time, state universities or colleges will also be allowed the same thing. Think of a college in a North India, whether it's in Bihar or UP or Jharkhand. The college which is there, somebody will give a call. See, I have so and so industry. I will sponsor you with so much money. Okay, fine. You will be our professor. He is getting that. He's getting that impulse. He will be. I am the professor of so and so. His bio will include that.
That happens in the case of PhD also. People are awarded.
So that is correct. Thank you very much, Professor Pathak. Now my question goes to Professor Mittal. Professor Mittal, why not make more stringent laws for granting PhD? If it is like this, you mean to say that all over the world, these PhD fellows are fools. Sorry to use these words, because what I am listening, that they are the corrupt people, they means either the majority or minority, whosoever. That's why the UGC has decided to come out with this such type of suggestion. If any suggestion is coming, it means they found at least 20% or 30% PhDs are, I will not use the word, but they are corrupt. I will say the corrupt. Okay. Or they are not up to that standard. They are cheats. They are frauds. Because after all, they have done the PhD according to Professor Pathak by unfair means, and if you also say,
yes,
then make a stringent law. Don't why?
Well, sir. I said that those who have come through unfair means. I have not said that everyone has come through unfair means.
That is what I'm saying. Say 20-30%. That's why UGC wants 10%. See, even otherwise 1 or 2%, nobody will change the policies.
It is not a question about quality of PhD. UGC wants some new industry inputs to be there.
See, but that is what I'm asking you. Which industry you are talking? Engineering? Who will give? I am a manufacturer of a particular machine. So I will become the professor. I am doing a contractor work. I am a lathe manufacturer.
That question was settled by AICT in 2018. So you asked Mittal sir.
Yes, Professor Mittal.
Care of. And in fact, what you have said is, it is rightly said that I have already told in my earlier thing that PhD from good institution. It should be PhD from good.
Professor Mittal, I will stop you here. Yeah. All institutions, once approved by the AICT or UGC or MCI, are supposed to be good. You cannot say it's a bad. So what is the difference? If you have approved as a member secretary of during your time, you have approved say 10 engineering institutions. They have already fulfilled all the norms which you have set. So you cannot say they are not good or bad.
Yeah, that's right. I have said that thing that good institutions also, there are different standards. So although they have qualified for the minimum criteria, but at the same time, they have qualified for the minimum criteria for BTech or MTech, but may not be for PhD, because research orientation is different. You have rightly said that there should be some criteria from the government that PhD should be this much. This much should be the standard of PhD. That we have not set yet. That is required to be done.
Yes, Soji, that is a correct thing. What you said is right. That first we should try to set our PhD standard.
Yes.
Instead of granting PhD by XYZ, as Professor Pathak confessed today on our media conference, that in spite he is knowing that this person is not up to that mark. But after all, the UGC put pressure. You have to grant it. This is wrong. One has to be very, very practical. Then only we must grant the PhD. Thank you very much. Now my question goes to Rukhsana Hassan ji. Dr. Rukhsana Hassan, why not? If you want to include any industry leader, I also want to become a professor. Why not? My name will say Professor, Doctor, not Doctor, Professor LAL GOEL. Okay, but why not? Once you feel that this fellow is good to be a professor, first assess, as Professor Pathak says, grant him an honorary PhD. See to it that his skills are equivalent to PhD. Grant him an honorary PhD, as Professor Pathak says about C.V. Ramanji. He was granted so many honorary PhDs. We know that our Kalam Sahab, he got, I think, if I am not mistaken, about 45 PhD doctorates from different universities, not only India, from all over the world. So grant him the honorary PhD, then he should be allowed to work in a institution. What do you say, Dr. Rukhsana?
Yes, sir. As you have made so many points very clear, that before I say this particular university or this particular place you get a PhD, don't count on the number of application. Count on the one application which the government has given permission to take the number of application. So that one application has to have stringent rules, checklists, and all those things to say that they are eligible to give another 1,000 to 1 lakh PhDs to others. You make all the loopholes and then you grant them a PhD license, you grant them the permission, and then don't blame it. Then again, it comes up with an argument, good institution and bad institution. So what are the criteria for good institution and bad institution? For what is the checklist? You please go back to the schools which are there. The research what I have done in Bangalore, place Bangalore South, Bangalore East, small schools have CBSE license. So what is the criteria to have a CBSE license? So where are we lacking? So where are we doing? Who is doing this? Exactly as you said, these corrupt people will go to any extent for these kind of facilitation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now the last round, just one suggestion, minimum about say 30 seconds or 45 seconds. What one suggestion you would like to give to the UGC before they will make it a law, Professor Pathak, about this particular thing, what we have discussed today?
A thorough assessment of the suitability of industry personnel who are going to be selected.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor Pathak. Professor Mittal.
Yes, as I have already said, that it is the quality of PhD. It is quality of PhD. Some minimum standard for PhD must be set up.
Okay.
Otherwise,
thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Rukhsana Hassan. What will be your suggestion?
Before you make any checklist, please check the checklist.
Yes, it's a thank you very much. So today, viewers, you have seen three very senior persons in their field. They have given their views, and their views are very, very clear. Although I try to act as a devil's advocate, which I am supposed to do, because if I will not ask, but they are very, very clear. They admitted, which is very, very difficult in any profession. They admitted that the quality of PhD in India is not of that standard. It is obtained by adopting unfair means, not for everyone. There are many, many good. I must say the majority are very good, but the few, as you know, that one rotten egg spoiled the things. Similarly, in PhD, and that's why UGC has decided to bring the input of the industries, those who are industry leaders. But again, the thing is how the industry leader who is not had done the proper education in that particular field, he might be of different field, but he might be a leader in the industry, can be allowed to teach those postgraduates or the undergraduates, those who are in technical institution. That we have to see what type of, as Professor Pathak says, stringent laws should be there, the norms to be there to evaluate that industry fellow. Professor Mittal says make more stringent laws for the PhDs, and Dr. Rukhsana says bring out those reviews, revisit the checklist. What is the checklist? Then only we will be able to get a good education. Now, my take is, before taking such type of decision, please see to it the education, why the education system in India is going down day by day. Whatsoever we claim, but we know that after all, there is a benchmark in all over world where they are giving the rating every year. And just to say that this rating is all false, that is like a child always says whenever it comes with from the school, the report card, no, my teacher is bad, she favors the other child. So similarly, we should not blame the rating agency. We should try to analyze ourselves, introspect ourselves. What are the faults among our education system? If we will not be able to do, this thing will be again something which will be there for few years, and then again we will find that this again become a corrupt practice. If you will try to be parking those persons just to shell out the money officially. Right now we know that all the vice chancellors, maximum of the vice chancellors, all those principals are politically appointed, although they are qualified, but if you have a aligned from a particular party, whichever is ruling in the state, if you are a state university or if it is a central university, generally it is happening. If it will be now in the teaching line also, then what will be the future of the students or the education in India. Thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Caru News, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarocar News, Bharat Post News, Gyan, as well as was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor to bring to you everyday new topic in media conference with LAL GOEL. And tomorrow being Wednesday, which is a day for democratic reform series, which we are running on every Wednesday. And tomorrow our topic is administrative reforms in India. And our panelists are Mr. Pritam Singh, IAS, former Secretary, Government of India, Mr. Sandeep Silas, IAS, former Civil Servant, Government of India, and Dr. Naveen Gupta, Director, Hindustan Institute of Management and Computer Studies, HIMCS, Sharda Group of Institutions, Mathura. So please tune in tomorrow for media conference with LAL GOEL at 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Pramod Pathak. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Alok Mittal. And thank you very much, Dr. Rukhsana Hassan, for enlightening us and giving your very, very positive, I must say, the views, which I'm sure all our viewers, those who are watching our shows, those who are PhD holders or those who are planning to do the PhD or those who are in the industry, they are all enlightened. What are the advantages about this particular move of the UGC? And we hope that our program will give some suggestions which may be accepted by the UGC, which has emerged from today's topic. Thank you very much. And thank you all the viewers for watching our show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.